Hey, I'm Roman Lily, and today we are talking about rudeness. So, this came into my mind because I was not listening to, I was actually reading an article about a French guy who got fired for being rude, but he filed a lawsuit saying he wasn't rude, he's just French. So, I thought it was funny because there is sort of a perception that French people can be seen as rude. But the truth is, a lot of French people have a perception that Americans are rude. And it's something that I encountered firsthand, and it took me really by surprise. And I want to share that experience with you because I had an experience with a French woman when I was traveling, and she thought I was just so extremely rude. She told me that she thought all Americans were rude. But it shows how there's so many different cultural differences, right? And what one person considers rude, another person doesn't. It's all quite relative. So let's talk about that right now. I'll tell you what happened. Also, make sure you subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already. There's a lot more coming up. I'm still posting some videos from India, but I have more videos coming up showing you all around Paris, France. And I'm going to tell you more about different experiences that I've had here trying to buy things, trying to shop. I have a little bit of a cough. I've been a little sick. But yeah, trying to buy things can be a little tricky here, and I've run into some trouble with things and trying to do some small things. I'm going to share that with you in another video, but for now I'm going to talk about this rudeness issue and what I experienced and when a woman thought I was being really rude and I just didn't agree. So this was actually when I was in Chiang Mai, Thailand, and I was at a juice bar for Chiang Mai people. I was at Khun Kay's in the old city. And I was just there, like, getting a smoothie. And it's a really cool place where it's usually a chill atmosphere. I've made friends there before. So I was sitting there, and there was a woman sitting next to me. I feel sick. I'm trying to tell you the story and not, like, cough myself to death. Okay. So there was a woman sitting there, sitting next to me, and she was having a coconut. And so I looked over and I was like, oh, like, cool. Like, I love coconuts, but I hadn't had a good run with coconuts lately. Like, I had so many that were not that sweet. So I looked over and I was like, oh, is your coconut sweet? And she was like, gave this, like, shocked, flustered kind of look. And I was like, okay. And she was like, yes, it's sweet. And I was like, okay, I just, wanted to know. I haven't had too many sweet coconuts lately, just checking, whatever. And she just kind of glared at me, went back to drinking her coconut. And after a few minutes, she was like, you're American, right? And I was like, oh boy, that's never a good sign. No, actually, before that, she was like, can I ask you a question? And I was like, sure. And she was like, you're American, right? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, I knew it. And I was like, okay. And she was like, yeah, Americans are so rude. They just talk to people. They don't say, excuse me, or pardon me, or can I ask you a question? They just, they'll just say anything. And I was like, I was so shocked, that she considered this rude. First of all, I didn't even know if I had said, pardon me, or can I ask you a question? I initially was like, I didn't, because I don't even think about it. Like, it's not, I don't know, I guess it's not like a big deal to me. It wasn't like even on my radar. And she was just like, ugh, like so exasperated. And then I tried to make a case for myself because I felt kind of defensive in that moment. I was like, listen, like, if I asked a question, it's because, we're two adults just sitting here. First of all, we're two female solo travelers in a foreign country. Like, I thought I could just ask about a coconut. I didn't think it was a big deal. And most travelers that I meet are so friendly. And this woman, by the way, I think she was in, like, her late 30s or early 40s. And I wonder if there's a generational thing to it. Like, would an early 20s, mid 20s French girl have wanted me to be so formal with her? I don't know, but I suspect not. But so it was interesting in just how different things are. And at the time, like, now I know more about French culture, and I'm starting to understand the different norms and how people interact with each other and how people interact with strangers. And the truth is, in France, people are more formal in the way they speak to each other. Whereas I think in the US, we're a little bit more relaxed with our language. You know, we're just like, oh, hey, what's going on? You don't do that in France. It's like a sign of being like, raised by wolves, it's like you have no upbringing, if you're just going to talk to somebody like that. But she genuinely thought I was super rude and genuinely felt like all Americans were. And then, of course, there are ways that Americans can therefore think that French people are rude when they may not think they're being rude in that same way. There's just some differences. So I'm very intrigued to see what's going to happen with this waiter who filed the lawsuit saying that he's not rude, he's French. And I'm also excited to share more of my experiences with you in France at restaurants. Okay, one more thing. It was funny because I did go to a restaurant in Paris, and I remember this one waitress had been very distant, and like Americans are kind of smiley, like I know I'm smiley, like I'm like, hey, hey, and like that just isn't how a lot of French people are. Parisians are not smiley, especially not to strangers, not for no reason. So this woman had been my server, my waitress at this restaurant, and she'd been really stoic the whole time. And I was like, yeah, well, I'll be around for a while. And she was just like, but she was still looking very serious. And she was like, okay, well, maybe you'll see that, we French aren't as bad as everyone says we are. And I was like, it was kind of interesting to me that she acknowledged that stereotype and was saying how French people aren't as bad as people say they are, that it's just kind of maybe a mindset shift or something. There's just something a little bit different that in the way French people interact with each other and with foreigners. So super interesting. I don't know. Let me know what you think. I didn't think I was being rude, but I tell you what, from now on, when I interact with French people, I'm much more polite. I keep a little distance. I don't just go up and speak to French people like, hey, what's going on? How's that coconut? I'll just wonder from now on. I don't even ask about the coconuts anymore. I just take my chances and order one. But so let me know what you think, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't done so already. There's a lot more coming up, a few more videos from India, and then it's going to be all Paris all the time. All Paris all the time until I go to like London or Amsterdam or wherever. So I gotta get rid of this cold. It's like still in my chest. Okay. That's it for now.